Luca had always thought he was living a dream. His marriage to Sarah seemed to be the perfect realization of what he had always wanted. He had grown up in a small mountain village, a place where love and respect were considered the fundamental pillars of every relationship. From a young age, he had observed his parents living in harmony, sharing the small joys of daily life, and he had wanted the same for himself. When he met Sarah, he felt that all his dreams were coming true. She was different from all the other people he had met. Her wavy brown hair, her genuine smile, and above all, her bright and deep blue eyes had immediately captured his attention. Before continuing, subscribe to our channel and activate the bell. In that first meeting, Sarah was reading a book in a bar near the university. The concentration she put into reading had struck him. There was something magnetic in the way she immersed herself in those pages, as if the whole world around her disappeared. Luca, with his heart in his throat, approached to offer her a coffee. That's how they started talking. They soon discovered that, despite their different studies, she was enrolled in literature while he was studying architecture. Their conversations flowed naturally, as if they had known each other forever. Every meeting with Sarah seemed like a discovery of new emotions and dreams to share. After a few years of dating, they decided to get married. They didn't have much, but Luca was convinced that the love they felt for each other was enough to face any difficulty. Their wedding was a simple ceremony, but full of emotion. Every look, every word spoken that day seemed to confirm what they both knew for a long time. They were made for each other. They rented a small apartment in the heart of the city, where they began their life together. The early days were not easy. They had little money and many bills to pay, but they always managed to find a way to smile, supporting each other. In the evening, after a long day of work, they found themselves on the sofa, snuggled together, whispering promises of a future full of dreams. As time went by, things improved. Luca found a good job in a renowned architectural firm, and Sarah was able to realize her dream of becoming a literature teacher. They decided to buy a small house with a garden where Sarah could finally devote herself to her passion for sunflowers. On Sundays, Luca would prepare the barbecue while she took care of her plants. They were simple moments, but full of happiness. Laughter echoed in the garden, and every now and then they would stop just to look into each other's eyes, certain that their life together was perfect. But perfection, as Luca would discover, can be fragile and deceptive. After 5 years of marriage, Luca began to sense changes in Sarah. At first, it seemed like nothing to worry about, small details that could go unnoticed. Sarah spent more time on the phone, smiling and laughing at jokes Luca couldn't hear. When he approached, she quickly closed the screen. But those small omissions began to weigh on Luca. Their dinners, once filled with lively and fun conversation, became increasingly silent. Sarah seemed distant, lost in her thoughts, and Luca's every attempt to ask her questions was met with evasive answers. When he asked her if something was wrong, she always responded with a forced smile, saying she was just stressed out from work. The feeling of loss became even stronger one Sunday, when Sarah told him that she had to go to school to prepare some extra lessons. Luca found it strange that she had to work on the weekend, but he didn't ask any questions. Only when he found a hotel receipt in Sarah's jacket did his world begin to crumble. And a pregnancy test. Maybe it wasn't as he thought. Maybe it would give him good news. His heart pounded. But from that moment on, Luca observed every little detail in Sarah's behavior. He noticed how she prepared herself more carefully before going to work, wearing clothes she hadn't seen in a while, and using the perfume she had always reserved for special occasions. Every day, his mind built scenarios that filled him with anxiety and doubts. One evening, while Sarah was in the bathroom, he quickly checked her phone. What he found made him tremble. Among the messages from work and friends, there were overly affectionate conversations with a certain Piero, a colleague of Sarah. Luca, with sweaty hands and a broken heart, understood that the bond between them was not purely professional. He couldn't sleep that night. The thought of Sarah and that Piero together tormented him. The next day, Luca made a drastic decision. He hired a private investigator. He never thought he would have to go this far, but the need to know the truth was now unstoppable. After a few weeks of investigation, Luca received a dossier that confirmed his worst fears. There were photos of Sarah and Piero together, romantic lunches, walks hand in hand, and meetings in a hotel. Every image was a stab to the heart. Sarah's smile, which Luca thought was only for him, was now directed at another man. Every night, he watched Sarah sleep next to him, wondering how she could have hidden everything from him. One night, unable to bear the weight of that secret any longer, he decided to confront her. "Sarah, we need to talk," he said, his voice shaking. "I know everything." She looked at him, surprised and pale. She tried to deny it, to justify herself, but when Luca showed her the evidence, she collapsed. Sarah's words were like stabs. "It's not your fault, Luca. I'm lost. Piero made me feel alive, wanted, at a time when I no longer knew who I was." Luca listened to her, but he couldn't breathe. When he asked her about that pregnancy test, the final blow came. Sarah confirmed that it was positive and that the baby was Piero's. In that moment, Luca understood that everything he had built, everything he had believed in, was over. He left the house that same night, taking with him only the pain and the knowledge that his life would never be the same again. In the days that followed, Luca tried to make sense of what had happened. He spent a week at a friend's house, trying to process the betrayal. Sarah tried to contact him, but he didn't have the strength to respond. The pain was still too great, too fresh. After weeks of thinking, Luca decided to go home. Sarah wasn't there, but he found a letter on the kitchen table. In the letter, she explained that she was moving in with her parents for a while to give him the space he needed. Luca walked through the house, observing every corner full of memories, every object that now seemed like a cruel joke. Sarah's garden, once blooming and lush, now seemed wilted, just like their love. After months of therapy and introspection, Luca made the final decision. He called Sarah and asked to meet her in the garden. Surrounded by the roses they had once grown together, Luca explained to her that he wanted a divorce. Sarah cried, but she understood. They hugged one last time, knowing their marriage was over. As Luca watched the sun set, he realized that despite everything, he was ready to start over. The pain would not destroy him. He had learned a lot about himself, about love, and about forgiveness. One day, he knew he would be ready to trust again and find a new love. Did you like this story? Leave a comment below. Thanks for watching the video till the end, and see you next story.